if you got a deck or you have a patio, all you need for tomatoes is just a little bit of sun, hopefully all afternoon sun. I usually recommend using a large enough container so it doesn't dry out too quickly. And you can use a clay container, but this container is a little too small. But you do need to be sure that there's a hole present at the bottom. Here we have a hole present on this container. So once you get the right size container, you then need to find some smaller plants. And I like to get nice, healthy growing tomatoes that look like this, nice and green, not ones that have a lot of yellow because they may not take off right away. Then you need to get a great sort of garden type soil, or really a potting soil mix. And that is what we have right here, which is sort of like peat, perlite, vermiculite, and some fertilizers. Bricks at the bottom of this container will keep your container more upright in the heavier winds, and so what I'm going to do is put 3 bricks in here. It also allows you not to use too much of your soilless mix or your potting mix. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put the mix in close to the level I would like, level it out, and then I'm going to go ahead and plant my plants in this container. Now, you can do a couple of things. You can put a single tomato in this container, or you can combine a tomato and a pepper in this container at the same time. So it's easy. As I mentioned, you get a nice, healthy, growing tomato. What you want to do is, many of these containers now are what I call biodegradable, and there's a whole wide variety of these types of containers. But I do like to pull the rim off. This acts as a wick sometimes and dries out your pot. So I pull off just the edge, top edge, and then here I am with my tomato. Then I go ahead and I'll plant my tomato. Now, I do recommend planting tomatoes deep. I do this both in the garden and even in containers. So you don't be afraid to plant them deep, because your tomato plants are going to root up and down the stem. So, you really can't plant them too deep. So I'm going to go ahead and plant this in here, and I'm going to come back and fill right around it. What I've done here is taken some great fabric that allows for water to go through but prevents splashback, and I've cut it. So I'm going to take that fabric and nestle it right around that stem of my tomato and fold it over just like this, and then sort of fold this fabric back so it acts as a splashback guard. It also acts as an insulator, so it helps prevent moisture loss. Now, if you wanted, you could go ahead and combine a pepper, and you could actually combine maybe 2 types of peppers in combination with this plant. As to the types of tomatoes you can get, some are going to be really big, some could grow as tall as 6 feet. Some of the bush varieties are only going to get maybe up to maybe 24 to 36 inches. The critical thing to keep in mind is watering. You never really want to let your tomatoes completely dry out. It's when your tomatoes dry out, get wet, dry out, and get wet again, you get the creation of what they call blossom end rot. And that's where the tomatoes become deformed and the end is black, and you really don't get that nice full tomato. In fact, this started to dry out, and some of the leaves, as you can see on parts of this plant, really were damaged. But what you can do if you have that problem, and if that occasionally happens, prune it out. The other thing you can do is there's these great, neat, inexpensive automatic water timers that will water your plant, every 2 or 3 days, just when your plant needs it according to your directions. That'll help prevent this problem. Let me show you a couple pruning techniques that will help keep your tomato from getting too big on your deck or patio. When it comes to pruning tomatoes, even if you have them planted in the garden, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Some tomato plants are what they call determinate. They grow to a certain size, they produce fruit, they stop bearing, and that's it. They don't need a lot of pruning. But if you're growing the indeterminate types that continue to grow like you see here, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, you might want to prune them. And personally, I don't, but some people do. When you don't prune them, you'll get fruiting, maybe later in the season. Fruits may not be as big, but if you want, you can go in and pinch out or de-shoot some of the growth shoots that come up from the side of the stem. You just reach in like this and you pinch out this little shoot. You can also, if you want to stop the height of this plant, come in and you'll hear it snap, prune that shoot and de-shoot just like that. Do it when the foliage is dry, don't do it when it's wet so you don't spread disease. I prefer to pinch rather than use shears unless they're bigger stems. And the other thing you're going to notice is if you don't have fruit or you're not producing tomatoes, don't worry. It's just going to take a little longer. As you see here, some of the fruit here set when it was a little cooler, but with the warmer temperatures over the last couple of weeks that this plant experienced, it did not bear, but it's going to start bearing here now that there's cooler temperatures, so just be a little patient. As to combining peppers and tomatoes together, the reason you do that is you can harvest them all at the same time. So when you want to make your own salad, you can pick your own peppers and pick your own tomatoes right from that same pot and use it that very next day. But it's that easy. Grow some tomatoes and peppers in your backyard or on your deck, and you'll do it each and every year. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, use the internet to click on the In the Garden website. That's inthegardenradio.com.